Greetings and welcome back, dear students. Today, in the chapter 3, Soil Resources, we will be learning about few more important types of soils in India. And here we begin with marshy soils. Marshy soils are also called by the name peaty soils. Now, the peaty soils are generally formed by swampy areas or by the swamp, and also where there is a lots of waterlogging. Now these type of soils are mainly found in humid regions, and these regions where we have the good amount of heat plus moisture makes it what the suitable for the conditions to make the marshy soils. Now in the marshy soil we can have the large accumulation of large amount of organic matter in the soils. So lots of organic matter is accumulated and gathered together. Now, due to the waterlogging, there is an anaerobic conditions of the soil which is responsible to form the marshy soil. Now, due to waterlogging, there is a lots of absence of oxygen, and in that conditions, the plants or small types of herbs that can grow without the help of proper oxygens, these are found in this area. So mainly, waterlogging causes anaerobic conditions to form the marshy soil. Now, marsh is also called as a typical wetland swampy area. So here we can see the domination of herbaceous. Herbaceous means the herbs mainly, and here we are not able to see lots of woody plants or the woody species, just like in other soils we could easily found. Then marshes provide habitat for many types of plants and animals. But these animals and plants, they have adapted to the living conditions into the flooded conditions where they have lots of anaerobic conditions. And here the conditions are very wet with a low level of oxygens. And this type of soil can also support for somewhere fisheries. Then the types of plants which are mainly found out here, or the animals, these are invertebrates, some type of fish, some amphibians, some waterfowls, the aquatic birds just like the duck and geese, and some aquatic mammals. So these type of animals we can find in the marshy areas. At the same time, marshy areas are mostly having the grasses, the bushes, and the reeds. So these are what the small types of herbs and the plants, but not the woody plants. But here, somewhere we can see the short shrubs that can also look like the woody plants. But majority plants are not of woody plants. So here we can just try to find out some difference between the swamps and the marshy areas. So marshy areas mostly we can check these are supporting to what the small herbs and the plants, exception of woody plants. But the swamps are mostly dominated by trees and the bogs, the soft and the spongy ground where there is a good amount of growth of the small plants. And the swamps are also having the accumulation deposits of acid in the swamp areas. After the introductions, just try to recollect here the characteristics of marshy soil. Marshy soil is black, heavy, and highly acidic in nature. This acidic in nature makes the soil infertile and not good enough for agriculture. It's highly saline. In a sense, it is very salty in nature, but it is rich in organic matter. But at the same time, it's poor in phosphate and potash. This soil contains lots of ferrous and aluminium sulfates, and that is in a very high amount that makes the soil highly toxic to the plant life. Now toxic means it's a highly poisonous one, and that's why most of the plants cannot grow here in a proper way. Marshy soils have some presence of iron and the varying or different amount of organic matters. So these are some of the characteristics, and if the questions are asked, any 2 3 characteristics of the soil should be mentioned. Now let's try to find out the areas or the regions in India where can we find out. Mostly find out in Kerala, especially in the western part of Kottayam district and some parts of Alappuzha district here in Kerala, where we have some backwaters in that areas. They are also found towards the eastern coastal areas, just like Odisha coastal areas, in West Bengal some coastal areas, downside in South India, Tamil Nadu's coastal areas, and in central north of Bihar. Here, somewhere nearby the river in the north of Bihar, and somewhere in Uttarakhand, Almora districts. But these are some of the places in India where we can find out marshy soil. But it can be mostly find it out nearby the edges of lakes and the streams where there is a transition between the aquatic and the terrestrial ecosystem. Try to understand this. If this is a lake full of water, this is good for the aquatic plant and animals. And at the edges of that, we have land, and this is a terrestrial area. So on this border between the water and the land, we can find out mostly the marshy soil. So wherever there are lakes, wherever there are rivers, we are able to find out the marshy soil. Then what type of crops can be grown on the marshy soil? Actually, generally submerged underwater during the rainy season. That's why it is mostly used for paddy cultivations. Now paddy cultivation in the sense rice cultivation, because rice needs a lots of water, and even sugar cultivation also can be done in the marshy soil, because these two crops are soil exhausting, plus they need a plenty of water. Now marshy absorbs lots of water during the periods of heavy rainfall and slowly release it into the waterways. They just works like a sponge. During the rainy season they absorb lots of water, and later on they release the water in the other waterways. And this way they are also helpful in reducing the destructive effect of the flooding. So where there are flooded areas, in that areas marshy soils helps a lot in order to control the flood. And this is how the marshy soil works, and we can find out some characteristics like that. Let's study the next important soil, that is mountain soil.